and primarily focusing on the Springfield University Hospital site in Tooting within the Borough of Wandsworth. So this is really exciting for the Trust, where the main goal for the estate modernisation programme is for the development of a brand new state-of-the-art mental health hospital on the Springfield site. And in order to do this, the Trust was funding the programme primarily out of the release of surplus land, which is land that we're either no longer using or which is no longer suitable for us to provide mental health services from. So that funding goes towards the construction of the new mental health hospital at Springfield. There will also be another development of an inpatient hospital site on our Tolworth Hospital site, which is in the Borough of Kingston. So on the Springfield site, to go along with the new hospital, there is also the restoration of the Grade 2 listed building on the site, and that's the main building right in the centre of the site that you can see on the map there. Alongside this, there will be delivered a new 32-acre public park. I believe this is the largest green space to be delivered in London since the 2012 Olympics as well. The disposal of all of the surplus land is mainly going to residential developments. So there's going to be quite a large number of new residential dwellings going on to the Springfield site. Included in this is affordable homes. So this is all in compliance with what we achieved through the planning permission. In addition to that, there is also land safeguarded for a new school to be delivered, and that's located on the map towards the left-hand corner, right next to the park. As part of the planning application, there will be financial contributions towards local infrastructure. This is captured under the Section 106 agreement that's in the planning application. So not only are we looking to redevelop the whole site, including a new mental health hospital, but we also provide funding for local infrastructure to be redeveloped through the council. As I mentioned, so this is all funded through trust-owned assets in the majority, and through that circular use of funds, this is us making best use of trust assets as they are at the moment. In order to deliver this, we went through quite a rigorous procurement exercise and selected our master developer, whose name is STEP, and they're in charge, or they are the master developer of the estate modernisation programme, which is on the Springfield site. If I hand over to my colleague Simon Allen, who'll be able to progress. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you very much, Joe. My name is Simon Allen. I work for Sir Robert McAlpine. We are the principal contractor working for the Trust in delivering the exciting new buildings of Trinity and Shaftesbury, which you can see in the centre or just up from the centre of the screen. We also have a wider responsibility around the estate, picking up the park and the construction of that and converting that into the new green space that Joe was confirming earlier. We are looking at upgrading the roads and putting in the base infrastructure and the wider provision that enables the sale of the plots to the various house builders who then come in later and pick up their housing accordingly. There is a timeline along the bottom of the screen at the moment, which just highlights the overall development period that we're looking to work to. And that then sort of underpins the transformation of the estate from when we started back in 2019 up to where it will be in 2025. Focusing in a little bit onto the hospital buildings themselves. There are the two of them. One will be called Trinity, and the other one is the new Shaftesbury buildings. You can see on the screen at the moment the new Trinity building, which is today, the scaffolds are largely removed from around the hospital. So we're able to see the new exciting elevations, the brickwork treatment, the curtain wallings, and an insight into the facilities that we're providing therein. The development of the hospital will occur, and we transform it, and in the middle of next year, we're looking to complete our work, which will enable the hospital to move in, decant into the new building during autumn 2022, and that then releases the existing hospital buildings that they're using around the wider estate, and that then enables that regeneration of those existing hospital buildings. We are looking to provide state-of-the-art mental health facilities. The boroughs of Wandsworth, Kingston, Merton, Richmond and Sutton, that is where the trust currently operates, and these new facilities will enhance that provision that they're able to provide for our community and improving mental health as a whole, which I think we can all agree in years gone by has been the poor relation in the health service, and therefore this facility is richly deserved. Looking into the hospital buildings themselves, Harriet, if we can just jump one, thank you. The location of the new Shaftesbury building, this is a view seen from due north of the new building. It adjoins the existing story building with a new main entrance for public and staff to gain access. It is located above 3 stories of car parking, so there will be parking for residents, staff and other users of the wider estate underneath the Shaftesbury facilities, and that car park entrance can be seen off Springfield Drive. There'll be a number of other facilities provided for the wider community. Chapel Square to the right of the building and other restaurant facilities will also be provided, which will be open to the public so that people can go in and use those facilities. But the building itself will be a concrete frame, or is a concrete frame. It is clad traditionally. It includes internal courtyards, which enable people to come out from the hospital within the building and have access to fresh air. And beyond that is a fairly traditional modern mental health facility. Looking at the building from the other side, we then have other car park entrances. So there is a trust car park entrance for their staff, so they have a unique floor on the building itself. And then there is a final residence car park level. As I said just now, there are 3 levels of car parking. There's a couple of other facilities, the waste compound, that's really just where everything that comes out of the hospital is collected, and then the dust carts come and collect and recycle accordingly. If we now move on, Harriet, please. This is the second facility, the Trinity, which is more of a outpatient and therefore more sort of akin to local community use. This also has a car park underneath it, and is a concrete frame building clad with brickwork, and again containing 4 wards that the staff will then be using. The main entrance comes off Chapel Square to the right of the building as we're looking at it from here, and there is an allowance for deliveries and facilities coming into the building, which is then distributed between the 2 buildings, as you can see on the drawing at the moment. So looking at what the inside of the building will be like, our professional team has very much focused on how to improve facilities, creating open and welcoming spaces for the service users inside the building, better and improved facilities for the staff so that they can monitor and treat patients accordingly, and trying to make these as welcoming and as friendly as possible, so that the patients can improve how they their living conditions and how they work and obviously get better. This is a look on the right-hand side into a typical bedroom, what they will look like, an area where patients are able to relax, enjoy a view out from their bay window, and how they can then generally improve their mental health and therefore the conditions in which they live. On to the next one, please, Harriet.
I think that's questions and answers, Simon.
So an opportunity if anyone's got any specific questions about the hospital buildings themselves.
There's nothing in the chat at the moment, but if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask if you've got anything, now's your chance. No?
Shall I move on then?
Wants to give a very detailed explanation. Yeah, Harriet, do you want to carry on? And then people, we like whenever there's another chance at the end as well, if you've got think of any questions throughout. So
that's great. Thanks, Emma. Hi everyone, I'm Harriet Gladwell Phillips. I'm the STEP General Manager. As Joe mentioned, STEP is the master developer who the Trust have employed to deliver the whole of the master plan. And obviously, Sir Robert McAlpine are our main construction partner, and you've just heard from Simon. I think what Simon's just gone through there is really important. Obviously, the real main focus of this whole project is to renew and deliver, fantastic first-class mental health facilities for this community, which I think, as Simon said, especially given the last 2 years, the importance of investing in mental health, and I think that's really important to mention. Also, the fact that the Trust has chosen to embed themselves, those mental health buildings, into the wider community and the public realm here, and those facilities. They really want to integrate with the community, destigmatize mental health, because it's something that we're all affected by. And I think that's really important, just to see what the hospitals are providing. But I can imagine that a lot of people here are interested in what else is being provided in the master plan, the scheme. What can the community benefit from? I'll just come back to this overall slide, and I may come back to it later, but just a kind of brief overview of what else is being provided and when on the facility, on the master plan. So in between the two main hospital buildings here, we've got Chapel Square, which is the kind of main public square of the whole development. Apologies, my phone is making a noise, even though I've turned it on to silent. The focus of the whole development, and that will be opening alongside the hospitals in kind of August, hospitals slightly later, but August next year. And I'll come on to a bit more detail on Chapel Square. We've got housing also being delivered on site. So along where you can see plots B1 to E2 and L&M, that is Barratt housing. They are, as many of you know, well on the way with construction, and we're expecting the first residents to move into those properties next spring. I think Joe mentioned the listed buildings, so where R and S are here, so the former hospital buildings, those are being converted by our heritage developer, City & Country, and again, you may have seen that they're well underway, and they've got the first residents moving in around the turn of the year. So again, that's an exciting development. In terms of the other residential, so we'll come on to those red plots, which are future residential plots. We've also got the care home, which is at plot H. So there's a new care home being provided on site, and that's due to complete next autumn. And then obviously Springfield Park, and you can see that wrapping around the whole master plan. And really key dates on this are the largest area of the Park Area B, this area in the corner, is due to be open following a landscaping bedding in period in the summer of 2023, followed by Park Area A, which will be the following year in 2024. And then this corner of the site, which is the sort of second phase, is likely to be the following year. Okay, so that's, as I said, I might just come back for reference, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more detail. So some of the public realm and park spaces, which I think are going to be a great new asset to the community. I mentioned public square, the public square there. There's retail, cafe facilities going in. We've also got a youth shelter, which we've undertaken going into the park, which we've undertaken in partnership with local schools. The whole master plan looks to increase permeability for cycles and pedestrians. I'll show you how that works just in a few slides' time, which I think will be really beneficial. And I think how all of this works operationally going forward. Under the Section 106, which is an agreement that the Trust signed along with the planning permission, the council has the option to adopt the park, and if that happens, they will run it. But if that doesn't happen, then the whole the park and the estate will be run by a dedicated estate management company, and the major landowners and the trust will be shareholders and directors of that company. So there's a real kind of vested interest in creating and maintaining those positive and high quality spaces. So just a bit of the detail that you might be interested to know, that around Chapel Square, which I mentioned is really at the heart of the whole development, are a number of retail commercial units. So if you take this, so this is zoomed in on the plan you've seen before. So up in underneath some of the Barratt housing is going to be a convenience store, so small supermarket, and that's target opening for early 2024. And as Simon mentioned, around underneath the ground floor of the hospital units, there are further retail units. So at number 2 here, we've got a restaurant, which will be open to everyone, as he mentioned. Number 3 here is going to be a well-being type use, potentially a gym. These are all being finalised at the moment, these operators, but you know, they work on a slightly shorter timescale, so building a hospital, so that's why they're not completely confirmed yet, but the use is fixed. There's going to be a shop type newsagent kiosk at number 4 and a cafe at number 5. So they're really going to frame that Chapel Square and bring that area to life. People will be able to enjoy outdoor seating and the green space at the middle of Chapel Square. Existing tenants, so Mayfield Nursery, who operate from the ballroom here, and Mayfield Gymnastics Club, who operate from the chapel, they are continuing to operate from those facilities, so they'll be a valued part of that community space going forward. So I think that's all really exciting, and it'll be a really great public space for everyone to use. Coming on to the park then itself, and I just wanted to give you a bit more detail about this, about what will actually be in the park, what areas you'll be able to enjoy. So just to kind of go through these as per my list down the left. So at number 1, you can see the red number 1 there. There's going to be a new pavilion cafe and public toilets there. Again, that operator will be selected in due course, but I think that will be a really good kind of hub for the park. And close by to the cafe there are the main play areas up at number 2. So there's different play areas targeted at different age groups. I mentioned the youth shelter at number 3. I think we're really excited to have a dedicated space for slightly older young people, so teenagers, and they've been involved in that competition to actually design that space, which I think is really positive. Number 4 in that area are the community and sensory gardens, and actually the community gardens is going to have community space where people can become involved in planting, growing produce, etc. So I think that's a really useful space to have there. There is a small car park at number 5 in the park of 40 spaces, that will just be short stay for those that need it. And then the kind of area below number 5, then that is for the most part made of grassland paths, planting, wildflower meadows, areas for informal sports. That will be a very kind of green area, the trim trail, which people will be able to use dotted around that area. And then you come round a little bit to number 6, which is the amphitheatre seating, which sounds very grand, but it's actually going to be sort of natural reclaimed brick seating set into the sloping lawn there, and it will have great views around that space and be a really nice place to sit out and enjoy. And I mentioned the improved pedestrian and cycle links down here at number 7. Originally, the plan under Section 106 was for the G1 to be rerouted through this area. We think that that's probably unlikely to happen. So the G1 bus, we think that's probably unlikely to happen at the moment, in discussions with TfL, yet to be confirmed, but unlikely. But there will be pedestrian cycle access through that area, and also through the cemetery in daylight hours. There will be pedestrian cycle access, plus obviously more access at these points from Burntwood Lane. I've mentioned the trim trail. Over 700 new trees being planted, wildflower planting, ponds, increase in biodiversity. If you compare it to the biodiversity that was supported by golf course, it's a huge increase in what was provided before. So I think it's going to be a fantastic asset, and hopefully something the whole community can enjoy. Just coming on to the some of the specifics on the residential development. So I mentioned City and Country, who are our heritage developer, and that's the picture of the restored front part of the building, which many of you may have seen if you've walked past. Converted into new homes, and as I mentioned, the turn of the year that we'll have people living in those new homes, and that's in a phased development, kind of going right up to sort of 2026. All of the historic park and gardens around that area are also being restored by City and Country, and Share Garden, who are also in that area, as many of you may know, are being provided with new facilities, which are likely to be very close to where they are now, but slightly just slightly further around in the master plan. But I think just the fact that this project has seen these buildings, some of which were unused and not being looked after, or brought back to life in the way that they might have been, seeing those come back to life, I think is a fantastic part of this whole project. I mentioned that Barratt Housing are obviously already on site in those areas across the north part of the site. And they're delivering new homes, including affordable homes. And again, their first residents will be sort of spring, summer. First new residents will be moving in, and that's in the affordable part of the site, and also private sale housing. There'll be a new green space as you come in from Glen Burnie Road between those two new blocks on the left. And I mentioned that the convenience store is part of that Barratt development, right in the middle under the buildings in Chapel Square. So again, I think really exciting that that's all progressing. The care home, there's a visualization of just what the care home's likely to look at in plot H, and I can go back to that plan if anyone's interested in specifics of where things are, but that will be completed in autumn 2022. A little bit about future residential development. So I mentioned those red plots on the master plan, and I can come back to those. Those are the future residential plots. So that kind of process it is being carried out at the moment by the trust and by STEP. And the target kind of timescales around those plots are for P&Q, and I'll show you the map afterwards. So for P&Q, the first part of those red plots to be released to the developer winter spring 2023, then GNF in the sort of slightly later, but still in 2023, and then X, Y, and Z, which is the bottom right hand side of the site, will be further into the future, 23, 25. So that's when that residential development can start taking place. And I'll just quickly go back to this slide, just so we've got P&Q being released first, then G and F, and then XYZ, this corner of the site, further into the future. Okay, and I'll just go back. And I think, just to reiterate really what Joe said, you know, the disposal of those parcels of land is what's generating the funds to deliver, and has been to deliver, the Springfield new hospitals, the park, the master plan, and also looking to deliver a new facility at Tolworth in Kingston. And then I think that's it, and room for questions.
Yes. My name is Abba Armour.
Hello.
Hello. You've obviously outlined your design, etc. But is it possible to share with us how the spend profile is going?
How the what, sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I just didn't catch quite that last bit.
The spend profile of the programme, how is that going? I mean, are you over, under, is it progressing okay, etc.?
I don't know whether, Joe, you want to pick this one up. I mean, the future residential parcels, that's being undertaken at the moment.
So is there a Gantt chart which is coloured in so we can all see how it's all going?
We wouldn't usually provide that sort of commercial data to the general public. We can give you the assurance that we are on programme, and that goes for time along with spend also. So we currently don't have a financial risk involved in the project.
Okay, and secondly, lastly, on my point of view, how do we get involved if users can get involved in this scheme? I'm just wondering.
Emma, do you want to? It's part of a comms piece, wouldn't it be?
Yeah. So yeah, in what respect do you mean? I mean, got to getting involved.
I mean,
got to be keeping updated, or
no. I'm saying to be a part of the actual scheme itself, if one can be a part.
Yeah. So we've run various engagement programs depending on what, and I guess it depends in what way you're looking to get involved. Like I said, we've engaged the local schools in regards to developing the youth shelter. We've got our Springfield Community Forum. So there's various ways that we engage the community to be involved in different aspects of the project, depending on where we're at and what needs to be done. So yeah, I guess it depends on exactly if there's anything in particular. I'm happy to have a conversation with you, maybe outside if there's anything of particular interest.
Yes, please.
Yeah, no worries. Obviously I've got email address. Yeah, we'll pick this up outside if there's anything in particular.
I mean, just to add to that, Emma, we're obviously, you know, as you've said, we've got all kinds of different community engagement programs going with schools, and I know, Emma, you're doing a lot with the stakeholders of the hospital. So it's just about which area, isn't it? But we really want to do as much as possible to engage the community and provide the relevant information that, you know, that people are looking to know.
Were there any other questions? I know we've had quite a few in the chat that I think Joe and Simon have been answering throughout. So I'm not sure if there's any that I think we've covered everything, but just if you haven't got the chat, just some of the ones that we have covered in regard, and I think they have been covered in the presentation as well. Obviously, I would ask about whether there's going to be a shop in the chapel area, which obviously we've said that yes, there will be. Obviously, been a question around will Wandsworth adopt in the park, which I think Harriet, you covered. Because obviously the council do get offered to adopt it, but it's not quite clear yet at the moment.
Yeah.
It's been a question around parkrun and the use of, will obviously parkrun be able to, will there be a parkrun in the park, or will it be a condition of the offer? So obviously you said it's going to be an open access park to all, and there will be, you know, obviously the trim trail, so there is opportunities for those kind of activities to take place in the future. And
Emma, just on that, I think, you know, depending on who manages the park, whether it does end up being the council, which we think is probably unlikely, just because, you know, at the moment these sort of spaces generally aren't being adopted by councils, but we don't know that yet. It has to be ratified. But if that doesn't happen, and we have the estate management company running things, we'll very much look to, you know, where we can provide community events, you know, run things from the Pavilion Cafe to engage with the, you know, the trust, the local community and the new residents. So things like Park Run would be a great example of something we could bring and host in the park.
Is it possible for me to ask a question, please?
Yeah, of course. Come on, John.
It's John Dawson, Wandsworth Society.
Hi, John.
Years ago, when we were involved at the feasibility stage, there was talk about opening up at least one route through the college gardens, so that, which is the quickest way from getting from the site down to Wandsworth Common Station or to the local shops, Bellevue Road, that sort of way. And I just wondered if any attempt has been made since then to, because it was all stopped at planning stage because there were objections from college gardens. But it would be a wonderful move to get cyclists and pedestrians able to walk or cycle through college gardens and take a shortcut into your site right by the Chapel Square. Has anybody, is this being taken up or considered at all at the moment?
John, I think I can probably answer that. I mean, I'm aware of it as an issue, and I know your kind of previous support for it, and I understand the benefits that it would offer. I think, as you touched on there were concerns from College Gardens residents about that in the early planning stages. And I think it was, you know, when Barrett, because obviously, I'm just going to share the screen briefly so people can appreciate where we're talking about. The right page. So we're talking about from this area, because at the moment that's a closed, well, it is a closed boundary. So I think that the last conversations that probably took place about it were when Barrett came forward with their detailed planning for this area, and they did public consultation. And I think that the position that was supported there was that there is no link. And I understand that there are, you know, that from a sort of permeability point of view, that has downsides, but I think it was the concerns from the Chapel, the College Gardens residents, that was the prime driver for that boundary not having a link through.
It's a great shame, because if you're having a cafe and a supermarket and a newsagent or whatever you're going to consider in the kiosk, then for people just in the whole of College Gardens, plus the Beechcroft Road, plus the other roads, you know, Wandle Road and Broderick Road, etc., they would all have access closer to your site for those facilities than they would going to Bellevue Road, for instance.
I know, I do understand. Yeah, I do understand your position, John. But obviously, you know, the various parties coming forward with this design took local concerns and you know, planners' points of view on board, and this is where we have ended up. So I think it's unlikely that anything is going to change from that, but I you know, obviously I understand your concerns from a site permeability point, and that there are benefits there that haven't been realised, but there are obviously concerns that have been protected as well.
It's a great shame, but it's something I think we might take up again with the local councils and try and get a bit of common sense coming. But still, I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
We've just had another question in the chat around, I think we did cover it, but if you pop the slides up, Harry, again, about the time frame for the Red Plotch G, P and Q being developed.
Yeah. Just again, bear with me, hold on. Okay, and it's gone to the back to the beginning, which is always what it does, but there you go. So can everyone see that? So this is all, subject to the finalisation and commercial negotiations and approval of business cases, etc. But the kind of target date for those plots being released to the developer, so that's when they could potentially start construction, is those dates that you can see there. Joe, I don't know whether you want to add anything to that. I think that's the situation at the moment.
No, I think that covers it. Thank you, Harriet.
Was there any other questions? I think there's a conversation around the share garden in the chat. I think some of you've picked up a little bit. Obviously, people just asking about if the share garden is going to remain, where's it going to go?
I can show you where it's likely to go. And this is just subject to final discussions with the planners. So if you picture sort of main building here, then and share is currently about here, the likelihood is they're going to move just very slightly up to this kind of area. So it's really not very far, and they'll also be provided with improved, at the moment their kind of office area is in the basement of the listed building, and Joe, I don't think you'll take offence by saying it's not the best accommodation, and as part of that reprovision of their facilities, there will be improved kind of classroom space and some internal space, subject to getting all of the detailed planning approval for that, which hasn't come forward yet, but that's the aim. So I think it will be close by to where they are, but hopefully overall an improvement of the facilities they've got now.
Would that map be available? Is it possible for you to put it on a link or something that it could be downloaded? It'd be very useful.
Yes, John, I believe it's on the website, but we'll double check that for you and make sure it's available.
Yes, please.
Adrian's just asked, will the park be opened in phases or in one go? So I'm just opened in 3 phases.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I heard the park B's first, and then. But again, I think we've shared that map. People can see exactly what areas we mean as well, can't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I think, Simon, you picked up the one about the school, didn't you?
Yes. At the moment, the plot is there for the school to be developed in the future. There is a condition as part of the 106 agreement for that land to be reserved for that use. How the Wandsworth Council then develop that is slightly out of our control, and at the moment we've not seen any planned aspirations of what that's likely to look like, but it's provided for future-proofing the use of the estate in that line.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Philip,
just popped. Oh, sorry. Go on, Philip.
Is there any provision for public transport to come into the scheme as the bus route now appears no longer viable?
I can answer that one. I'm going to share my plan again. So as I mentioned, the original plan was that the G1 would be rerouted this way through the scheme. But obviously this was a plan that was agreed in sort of 2011, and obviously things move on, and TfL's current thinking is that they probably won't reroute that bus, partly because people on Burntwood Lane who rely on that bus down there would miss out, and concerns from some residents down here about a bus which would kind of come through their car parking area. I think what TfL are looking to do, and as I said, this is all sort of subject to confirmation, is actually, and the Section 106 makes provision for this, to look at bringing, extending an existing bus route into the site this way from Glen Burnie Road and into the site, and then to come back out there. And that would be an extension of either one from Balham or Tooting Broadway. I sort of hasten to add that that is all subject to, you know, the route functionality tests, public consultation, all of those things that TfL would have to do when looking to provide that extended route. But that is their current thinking. And that will come, you know, that they'll, over the next kind of 6 months, they'll investigate that and do those various pieces of consultation, etc., that they need to do to look at whether that will come forward.
Fine, thanks very much.
So Lisa's just popped a link in the chat as well for those of you that can access it. And if you can't, I'll do a follow-up email after this with some of the links that we've shared for the key milestones. Are there any other questions before? No. And what I'll also do is send a link. So something else we have got is, if you're not signed up, we have got the Springfield Messenger newsletter, which is the newsletter that goes out with quite a lot of these updates. So it gives residents and the local community an update of what's happening at Springfield Village, where we're at with the developments, some of our community engagement work and what we're up to. So again, I'll pop the link in the chat. If you haven't got access to the chat, then I'll pop it in an email that you signed up. Or there's an email address here as well that you can pop an email to add yourself to the list if you're struggling to get into the website. But feel free to sign up and get those updates as well in the meantime. And if there's no other questions, I'll give it. No. Just want to say thank you so much to Joe, Harriet and Simon for taking the time this afternoon and providing that really comprehensive update. I hope you've all found it really useful. I know I have as well, and I'm involved, so always learn something new every time you present and talk about it. And thank you so much for everyone who's joined, taking up their time, and for the questions as well this afternoon. Like I said, I hope you found it really useful, and obviously a lot more updated of what's happening at Springfield. It's a very exciting time in regards to the brand new mental health facilities, but also, like I said, that the community in the village that we're also developing. And yeah, hopefully we'll, like I said, sign up to the newsletters and follow for the trust of our updates, and hopefully speak to you all soon. Thanks very much and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.